everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Today I am going to be answering the questions that you left me on my Instagram stories when I asked what questions you had about like my relationship in terms of like the financial journey that we had. So Travis and I have been dating for 8 years. 8 years in October, and we got married July 27th. So kind of just like looking through the whole evolution of a relationship and how our finances evolved over time. So this video is sponsored by RBC. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that I've been partnering with them for a while now. And when they knew that I was gonna get married, it kind of became this like perfect opportunity to talk about relationships and finances, because it's not like always the funnest topic, but I feel like I get a lot of relationship questions from you guys, and finances is a pretty big part of our lives. So I thought that I'd take this chance and answer all your questions. So here we go. So the first question is, how early on did you guys start talking about future plans? I would say probably like within the first half year. It's been a long time, so like I can't really narrow it down. Travis is a super planner, so I will give him that. Like, he has basically almost followed the entire life plan that he set out for himself. I am quite the opposite. I never really had a big plan. Even when I started this business, I wasn't like 100% sure it was gonna work. We talked about when we were expecting to get married. He definitely wanted to get married a lot earlier than I did. I was planning on getting married like after my 30s, when I had my career all figured out. One of his biggest things was like buying a house pretty soon after we graduated. And in my position, it wasn't gonna happen. So that was something we had to like talk about and see if we were able to make it happen, because those are pretty like big life goals and big financial goals that if you can't align on, that can obviously affect your relationship going forward. So just talking a little bit more about like how we came to agreement in terms of like getting married when like I'm 27 now. I know you guys have always asked me. I'm 27. Travis is 28, born 91, but I have a December birthday. We kind of agreed that we would get married at 30, because like I didn't want to get married before 30. He didn't want to get married after 30. So that was like our compromise. Thankfully, he was able to get a job and I was starting to be able to earn a living off of my freelance stuff. So we were able to fast track that, and then obviously fast track buying a house too. So the next question is, when you dated, how did you split bills? I feel like this is a pretty popular topic because it's like, it's kind of awkward too, especially when you first start dating, and depending on each of your personalities, someone will always want to take care of the other person. I grew up the oldest of 3, so I always like paid for things, and I always like wanted to be the one taking care of things. And Travis is the oldest in his family too, so we kind of like argued about that a little bit in the beginning, and it kind of became a thing where like if I felt like it was time for a date night and like I really wanted to try this restaurant or really wanted to do this activity, then I would pay because it was like my idea, vice versa for him. And then also because we bought our house in January, we were like not married yet, so we're still technically dating. And then we also had our expenses from the condo, from rent, for utilities, all that jazz. We split those like down the middle, 50-50. It just made it easier that way. How long after dating did you get a combined account, if you have one? So we actually never had one when we were dating. I don't think it's necessary unless like you really, like just that's really important to you. We will be getting a joint account probably in October, November when we come back from Japan. It will consist of all our common expenses or joint expenses. So like our mortgage, our utilities, land taxes, insurance, all that fun stuff. It will just be easier so that it will just come out of one account versus like now, like I send him money, he sends me money. It just has worked for us so far. And even though we're getting our joint account, we are keeping our own personal accounts. So that was something like I felt really important and like strongly about, was like still having our own autonomy with our own money. I want to buy things that Travis doesn't want to buy. He wants to buy things that I don't want to buy. And so like that's why we're doing a joint account, but also keeping our other finances separate. How did your financial planning habits change from dating to moving in? So the main difference was obviously that like we had more shared expenses. We moved into a condo together where we rented. Definitely the financial burden wasn't as big as it is now, but there was definitely more things that you shared, and that was one of the things we wanted to do before we got married or like even got engaged, was make sure that we could live together, because there's so many conversations that you can only have when you live together, when you share like certain expenses and responsibilities. Very important, I think, in terms of knowing that the person is the one, is like if you are able to move in with them for a little bit, do that first. And also when we first moved in together, I was definitely the one with a smaller financial like bank savings account slash fund. I had just finished school, obviously still had student loans, and my freelance career was like just starting out. It's not like I was making like good money where I could buy a house, you know? So at that point, we weren't exactly splitting things like 50-50. He was definitely doing a little bit more of the work in terms of paying the bills. And then when I was able to start making enough, then we started doing more 50-50. So I would say like in those situations, when you have that discrepancy between incomes, definitely have that like talk with your partner and make sure that like you're both comfortable with it, because he had to be comfortable with it because he was paying more, but you also have to be comfortable with it if you're the one paying less, because you're relying so much on someone else. And I felt bad, like, you know, like it just didn't feel good that like I wasn't able to help out just as much. So I felt like I like owed him something, right? And it's never good to feel like you owe your partner something, but we made sure that we talked about it. Like, I almost didn't move in with him. I would rather just like not move in and not like take part of holding up my end of the bargain, you know? We thought that moving in together was more important, and like I would contribute whatever I could. And then when we decided that we would, like, it was time to buy a house and like I could afford it, then like we were able to do it like together. That was another learning curve too, like when you have uneven balance of financial stability on each side of your relationship. So one of the things that obviously helped us like decide how to split expenses was budgeting program. And I wish that I knew more about RBC's budgeting programs and resources before, but I didn't. So Trav and I like kind of did it ourselves, and I feel like our budgeting plan was just not really reflective of what we were spending and making and like all the other expenses. So definitely something that I feel like you guys would really benefit on, especially if you're asking me all these questions. One of the things is that RBC has a mobile app, and within the mobile app, there's something called the Know Me, Find, and Save. So what it does is it proactively analyzes your spending. Basically, this program can find money like within your account, like where you can save, and it can like hide it away without like you actually like missing it, and then like making this little nest egg for you, like in case you're saving for a house, a car, a like something else. And they've actually helped Canadians save on average $187 a month. Like that's like a lot of money to save a month without like really realizing it, you know? It's not like you're just like, let me save $200 a month. This program just like strategically like saves money for you. I wish I had known that like before, just because it's easier if someone does it for you. It's easier if there's something that can help you save money rather than you physically like putting money away. And then also within the app, there is something called Know Me Budget. So what it does is analyzes your financing and spending. It gives you recommendations to make budgets for like 5 key areas in your life. So that's like entertainment, shopping, cash withdrawals, transportation, and dining. So those are pretty much like the key things that you're probably spending money on, or at least I do. And it helps you like create a healthy budget for that. Why didn't I know this before? I don't know, but for all of you, there you go. You're welcome. When you first moved in together, did you have separate account for expenses? So no, we didn't have a joint account. We still don't have one yet. So we were definitely doing a little bit extra work to balance everything out at the end of the month. What are some things you cut out spending on? So that was definitely important when we were working towards buying a house, is like saving, and cutting spending. And that was definitely something that was hard for me. I'm definitely not the world's greatest saver, and Travis is. So that was something that we like, he kept having to teach me more about, slash like reminding me. My biggest things were spending money on lunch, on coffee, just like random things that could totally be avoided if I planned better. So like if I like woke up early enough and like made my own coffee, put it in a thermos, like wash some fruits for snacks while I drive. Those were things I had to like get used to and like kind of teach myself to do, because I never did that before. And so those were like habits I had to add, and still working on it. But I'm drinking my own coffee right now, so pretty proud of myself. Did you and your husband merge finances? No. I kind of feel like I touched upon it a second ago, but basically we are going to get one joint account, still keeping our other finances separate, just because we both want that autonomy and that independence still. Obviously we are married and partners and going to be partners for life, but there are still parts of your life that I feel like you should have control over and like not have to share all the time. That's just something that I think, and he thinks too. Do you think you could ever be with someone that didn't have the same financial goals as you? So that would definitely be hard. Having said that, Trav and I like talked about it and like found a common goal, financial goal, like pretty early on, doesn't mean that we didn't struggle. Like we have very different financial personalities. He has always been a super saver, and even though like I save, I don't save on the level he does, and it was definitely something that we had to talk about. I definitely want to become a better saver. I don't necessarily think I need to be as intensely of a saver as he is, just because we have different views on that. But as long as you're both okay with that and you have talked about it and it's not like a surprise that you're like hiding debt or like hiding money and stuff like that, then I feel like you should be okay. Just have that conversation early on, or have that conversation now, even if it's been a couple years. Just, it's almost like ripping off a band-aid. Like you don't want to secretly hope things are going to change, because finances are not something to joke about. What do you do when one of you is good at saving but the other isn't? So that's like a very similar question. Clearly I'm not the good saver here, like if you haven't already noticed. So it's not only that like I'm not as great of a saver as he is, but I've also just like not had full-time salary job that he has had, where he is able to like put away money, right? Like I worked part-time jobs up until I was 25. Like I was in school, so I couldn't do a full-time job. I did like full-time jobs in the summer, but that's just like not the same. So I didn't have the like same nest egg that he had. It looks like an egg, so that kind of works. So when we started like having to save for a house, my saving game was like accelerated. I had to save so much more to even get to the level he was at. It's very hard to start saving a lot when you're not used to doing that. And that's a conversation we had. We had to like get our priorities straight. I think it's very hard to have a couple where like you both are just like super savers or like the exact same financial personality. If so, if that's you, I'm really jealous and good job. But I find that that's usually not the case. So if you are the one who isn't a good saver like me, just lean on your partner. Like your partner is there to help you and to support you. So you two are a team, so you should be able to help each other out through that. So we have to talk about time frame where like I would be comfortable enough to be able to save enough, right? Because it's really stressful to all of a sudden start saving like all this money that like you never had before. Making money finally, but like you can't use any of it. So that was like really stressful for me and like hard for me to deal with. And then when it finally became time to like look at houses and like apply for mortgages, we had to talk about what we could afford. There's like maximum what you can afford comfortably, and like what you can afford like on a very conservative level. Because I am a freelancer, although my last couple of years were amazing, super happy with how my business is doing, I just don't know what's gonna happen in the next 5 years, right? I didn't want to commit to a mortgage that was so out of our budget that like if for some reason I wasn't making any money anymore, or Travis decided that he wanted to go freelance, that we couldn't. So we chose a mortgage budget so that our monthly payments are like something that we could hit, even if like I had to go just like get a job at a retail store again, and budgeted so that in case one of us couldn't make as much money as we were making now, we would still be okay. So that's how we wanted to do it. We also just like wanted to have extra money lying around, right? Like we didn't want to stretch ourselves thin. We wanted to be able to be comfortable. We were planning a wedding too, so we needed extra funds there. We wanted to go on our honeymoon. There are things we need to do with the house. So we decided to get a house that was well under our price range, like budget. We started looking at different banks to get like pre-approval mortgage rate. We talked to a bunch, and although this video is sponsored by RBC, my mortgage wasn't sponsored by RBC. We just ended up choosing RBC. They were the nicest to us. Like the customer service was the best. They had the best rates at that time. We were just very happy with them, and we ended up getting our mortgage with RBC, which was a happy coincidence that this video is happening now. I'm a real estate agent, so like it was super easy for me to like always keep an eye out on like what was on the market, where we should be looking and all that stuff. So we like printed out a map where like we had Travis's work and kind of like where I end up in Toronto like a lot, and then kind of gave ourselves like an hour radius around. So we looked at Milton, we looked at Hamilton, we looked at Oakville, we looked at Uxbridge, we looked in Guelph. We actually started out in Guelph, left because we started with an even lower budget, and then we're like, we don't like any of the houses here. left, looked at other places, came back to Guelph with a little bit of a higher budget and ended up here because we really like our community. Like the neighborhood we're in, like I'm obsessed. Like our neighbors are so cute. I've never like had neighbors where like I could talk to and we just like be outside chatting for like 20 minutes, like just because we happen to be outside together. It's in the middle of both our families. His family's in Brantford, Burlington, and then mine's in Richmond Hill. So it's like a good in between. So this is gonna be the last question. Is one person responsible for bills and the other the mortgage, or 50-50 or 60-40? So we do it 50-50. Like I said before, it was probably more 60-40 when I was less like financially stable when we were renting, but when we decided to buy a house, decided to get a mortgage, like we did that because we both were able to do it 50-50. Obviously, if like for some reason my business decides not to do well next year, or if Travis decides to leave the corporate world with like a yearly salary, then things would change and we would support each other either way. I mean, that comes with marriage. You have to support each other through the ups and downs, and that's what we are planning to do. So now that we're married, the biggest thing that probably changed or will change is the fact that we're getting a common expense account. That will be fun to like see how things change. It shouldn't change too much as we already are sharing all our expenses, but it'll be more so like saving for like future vacations, future big spends. Like I need to get a new car soon, and like it will probably be like a joint family car, so that will be something that we'll have to save for, and date nights and vacations and all that stuff. So that will be like a new little area where it will change our financial journey. And then also joint taxes, which will be fun. We have been doing separate taxes obviously up until now, so that will be interesting to see in 2020. And I've also been using RBC Investies. I'm not sure if you guys remember from Instagram, like earlier this year I joined them and I've been loving the experience. So I've been telling Travis about it and he's pretty into joining too, so that will be something that we'll probably start to explore together, like more investments. But I think from reading from like all your questions and like answering them, probably the biggest advice I can tell you guys about like relationships and finances is communication. People have so many different views on how to do their finances, priorities in terms of finances, and you can't just figure that out without talking to each other about it. There are definitely going to be those hard conversations, going to be those hard questions, but there's never like a better time than the present to figure that out, and then you just have all this other time afterwards to work together on it, or maybe you decide it's just not gonna work. And I think that's a wrap. I've answered all the questions I can today. If you have any more, leave them down below. And just a reminder, this video is sponsored by RBC. Of course, all the relationship advice, experiences, and my opinions are my own. I can't really make those up. If you like the video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram, and I will see you next time.